I want to point out very quickly, look at the player camps. Look at Bruce, looking like a Sith Lord there in the mid lane with the hoodie on and the mask and everything. That's exactly the kind of performance we're trying to pull out today. He's going to try to do the Force Lightning down on Coyote.
Yeah, he's doing. He's embodying it already.
Yes.
Like, you know, yeah, definitely.
The other Darius is interesting though. Divine have pretty good combo and they have a pretty good side lane. So Flash will really have to be careful about this. I think they need to draft something stronger than
Brandon, you know what they're saying? We can't let Ysera get Darius, guys. Guys, we can't. It's too OP. We have to snatch it.
There's only one champ he can still play. We have to get rid of it now. Oh my goodness.
Akali.
He could play the Jarvan. He could play the Jarvan and they can still play the Akali. I don't see Akali going to Baron lane. I know Ysera has played it a couple of times before, but I don't quite like it in the Baron lane. I think it won't have as much impact.
I think the matchup is pretty good against the Darius here, and I do like the flexes we see coming in from Divine as well. Throwing down the Gauntlet Coyote, saying, I too am more than capable of playing this shit. And it looks like it will be Akali in the Baron lane up against Darius. This should be a pretty good matchup to negate the Darius, but it's just going to be a scaling, farming matchup up there.
Yeah, and you know, I was thinking that, like, you know, maybe the Lulu pick right off the bat to counter, you know, the Olaf. I wasn't exactly sure about it because I was thinking like maybe Divine Esports baited that, and you know, and suddenly like Flash Wolves need to react to it. But I don't know, maybe Flash Wolves have something planned indeed. Right now though, I'm favoring Divine Esports' draft. I do like that they have the security. They have the Galio in there. I love my Galio, by the way. And yeah, I think they have a lot of firepower on the side of Flash Wolves. They seem very, very squishy. What about you guys? What are your thoughts really quickly on the draft?
I think it's a bit too greedy here from Flash Wolves. They went for double marksman and a Lulu, which is not going to have a great laning phase anyway. But we'll have to see how this one plays out, because if they do get to the late game unscathed, they're going to do a lot of damage.
Look, if there's any composition that Flash Wolves want the most, this is definitely it. So I think this is fine if Flash Wolves just have to prove to us that this is a composition worth playing for.
Very, very interesting. And now we are ready to step into our first game of the day. This is Divine Esports versus Flash Wolves. Casters, take it away.
Thank you much there, Mika. Yes, welcome back here for day number 2 as we now explore the world and the wonder, which is Group B. My name is Skimmy. Today I'm joined here by TJ as we look to deep dive into the excitement of the Group of Death.
Yo, what's up? I'm at the Group of Death with you, Skimmy, and I'm having a fantastic time.
Just do love to hear it when you're having a fantastic time. It's our first cast here together, but we're going to be having a bit of fun on this game, aren't we? You know, Divine Esports, Flash Wolves, two teams with polar opposite styles clashing together. And there's a lot to break down with this draft. I think they bring up a really interesting point that Flash Wolves with the double marksmen are going to be looking to try and play this one a little slower and see if they can wither the early game, where Divine will have a lot of those early game threats.
Yeah, Flash Wolves do have a little bit more scaling built into their composition between the Corki and the Kai'Sa, both of which want to take a little bit of time to get online. I give them a little bit more credence, though, for 2 reasons. First of all, Flash Wolves always play to the late game. They always want to outlast their opponents, and they're pretty darn good at stalling games out, making them take 15, 20 minutes. Second of all, as engagement happens down bottom, this Kai'Sa does a little bit more during the early game than I think people give her credit for. So I expect Demon to be able to start snowballing early if she gets some visits, if the Kai'Sa gets some visits from Cookie on that Jarvan. So keep an eye on that interaction, see where Cookie puts the early gold out of the Flash Wolves jungle, and if it's down bottom, I think they have a serious threat during the mid game.
I think it's an interesting point you bring up about that bot lane in particular, because this is the welcomed introduction here for Demon. It has been the locking show. Yeah. He has been spamming that Ziggs in combination with Easton on the Gragas, banned away this time. So will this be the new look for Flash Wolves coming into the group stage? We saw it become really the Bruce show, more so than anything in play-ins. But they can't afford to be that one-dimensional getting into this group.
Yeah, Locking was playing down here and not having the greatest time. Struggling, as you said, on many of it, like kind of just an AP jail. Yeah. So I'm very excited to see not only the Demon Unleashed Unchained, but also Flash Wolves putting an AD carry down bottom. Though I think it is going to make this matchup very interesting. There are a couple of things to unpack. First of all, for like item stuff, Flash Wolves are very high on AD, on attack damage, so there's going to be a very easy armor build for Divine. The only AP, the only ability power on the Flash Wolves is actually from Ysera, who's been somewhat chronically underperforming throughout the group stage. So if you think, oh, we can shut down Ysera, then it's very easy. It's very cost-effective for Divine to just build full armor items and get out ahead.
Good trade there into Tarnex. Is worth noting, as you say, he played 9 games with the Renekton. 8-1 was his win-loss record on that champion. Phenomenal with it. That was the storyline, though. When the Renekton was denied, what did it mean? Well, 4 games in Nidarius and 4 losses is your answer. So looking to see what he can do here. And another demanding champion that does need to get the ball rolling nice and early. Not going to be the easiest of lanes going into Nidarius, but certainly winning out at the moment. And it's actually the Flash Wolves here with a small gold lead to talk about. Finding themselves that pressure, that harass, able to try and get those minions nice and secure. I'm sure we're going to see all the carnage really come to a fold. All the tension explodes when that first objective spawns. Very close in the mid lane.
Very close. And so here's one of the more interesting things about Divine coming into this first objective. Divine are normally very teamfight focused, and they're good at engineering them on the map. But Flash Wolves don't want a teamfight early here. So whether or not Divine are able to force early action will pretty much determine this game, will pretty much determine this early game, especially as Flash Wolves are going to win these lazy map states, these slow-crawling map states, just off the power of their lanes. So Divine want to break this. They want to go for the team fights that they have advantages in with their composition. And that's going to be in 22 seconds with this Cloud Drake down bottom, with this Rift Herald up top. They want to figure out which one Flash Wolves are going to and match them across the map. Bring the early power of the Lucian to bear in this team fight, use the Galio to tie up those double AD carries. I think it would be a pretty solid and easy win for them.
Yeah, abuse the early game state and obviously put yourself in that position of power with, you know, anywhere from a 5 to 10k gold lead to talk about to say that scaling, it's out of the equation. Double AD carry, a little bit too greedy. Maybe even as far as saying a little bit disrespectful into us. We're not going to allow you to play to that kind of tempo that got you to the group stages in the very first place. Now, we're seeing a lot of attention towards the mid lane so far. We're going to try and first find priority, but then decide what is more appealing. Is it Drake? Is it the Heralds? But it looks like Len so far is playing towards the Herald instead.
This is exactly what I was talking about. Divine don't just want an objective here. They want to fight Flash Wolves for an objective. So that entire dance we just saw in the mid lane was them trying to see if Flash Wolves are going to make a move, trying to see if they could match that on the map. Ysera trying for a steal of the Rift Herald, maybe in trouble.
Yeah, might be in trouble, as you say. He's going to get 3-man collapsed upon, a little bit greedy when the rest of his team are down bot side, picking up that Drake. He's just going to die. The Ignite comes out. The barrier won't save him. And the flash won't even be used. But nice trade there from Bruce bot side. Cross-map plays and it works 1-for-1.
Wow. Okay, so Flash Wolves played this incredibly well. Because by the same token, by the other side of the same coin, they don't want to fight for an early objective. They want to take whichever objective Divine Esports don't go to. So they wait for Divine to commit to the Rift Herald. They say, that's fine by us. We're going to take the Drake down bottom. And not only do they get a Drake, they match the other trading. They trade kill for kill. Ysera goes down, they get an arguably more important kill down bottom. And they trade turret for turret. Top lane goes over to Divine, all that gold going into the Darius Tarn-X. Well, all the gold Flash Wolves just got went into their carries as well. Passing that first turret gold between Bruce and Demon, the two players they want to amp up through this early game.
Yeah, and you can see that right now, represented on that scoreboard. They do have that small lead to talk about and get excited for, because whilst we now have an incredibly equal state from a team base, I suppose you're upset if you're Divine, feeling the fact that that trade went as even as it did. You've got a Ziggs with a Herald. Satchel charge could have secondly been that second charge afterwards, and could have been a trade that worked far more in your favor, but that wasn't possible. Lane states weren't desirable, and Hope One wasn't in a position to operate in that fashion. So if you Flash Wolves right now, as a fan, as a player, you're cruising.
Yeah, this has been a really well-played early game by Flash Wolves because of exactly what you just set up. They're slowing down the game state. They're achieving their goals. Bruce, though, basing, I think.
Ooh, good Valkyrie away. The taunt goes out. Doesn't really matter, because by that point, the distance to close is far too great. The Mega Inferno Bomb getting dropped. And to try and target them, I mean, it looks like they're really trying to overforce their hand to go for a dive.
Yeah, Flash Wolves don't have a hard answer on the map, but it's very hard for Divine to dive here. If Bruce stays around, he may be in trouble.
Decent buying time, scanning out, dropping some vision.
Watch
to
Len.
see what the rest of the team do. Cookie is on the height right now. Len is still waiting just outside of vision. Cookie has no idea. Out goes the Axe. Now they're going to have a bit of a biff. 1v1. Cataclysm locks him in place. Here comes Demon. Forced to flash away back inside the river towards his team. Look, I think Flash Wolves take that every day of the week. They've burnt out that, but hang on a minute. Demon's gone for the weirdest path, and the gunning goes on through. The taunt, he's flashed away, receives the Wild Grove, and now Quay's in a fair bit of trouble, but no kills still are found.
That was a Flash Killer Instinct, and the Killer Instinct took him to exactly the same position as the Flash would have been. A little bit weird, but he survives the experience as a result of the shielding on Killer Instinct. What's even weirder is that Rift Herald use. Divine Esports are trying to benefit from the skirmish inside the jungle, but they didn't get enough done, so they kind of just completely waste the Rift Herald. Kind of the first major mistake out of Divine Esports, I would say. They played very well around the skirmish, trying to force an advantage. Flash Wolves didn't give them a mistake. At that point, you withdraw, you count your blessings, you got some extra wards in, and you start looking for opportunities to spend the Rift Herald proactively on the map. And I think just because they were running out of time, they threw it down in mid and got really nothing for it, which is going to give Flash Wolves the early game an absolutely devastating result if you're Divine Esports. Because Flash Wolves can now fight 50-50. They can fight on fair terms for these objectives. And guess what objective's coming up? It's an Infernal Drake, the most important Drake.
Certainly is when you have a composition built to do damage. Get a little bit of extra flat damage added into the equation, and you're accelerating that early game, making that mid game as stable as it can be. Flash Wolves living in Wonderland so far. Very happy with how this one's played out. The classic age-old argument, if you're drafting scaling, not to fall too far behind. And they are playing to their heart's content, knowing what is their win condition. And that is why, straight away, no fuss about it, onto this Drake. Now the Cataclysm comes on through. Cookie jumping around, looking to try and zone members off. Guarantee that smite. Can they get it stolen? No, it's not going to be the case. 2 dragons for the Flash Wolves so far. The fight ensues. There goes the heroic entrance, dropping on down and knocking members up. But Cookie flashes away, and he's buying time. But it's a very aggressive, perfect execution. It comes on through. They find a kill, but he'll trade his life for that one as Quay is blinking. He's very low. So is Tarnex, but now the double duo of the pain and punishment that Lucian and Ziggs can provide is putting in a whole bunch of work so far. There's the double kill, gonna fall on down. Hope Bun jumps him through with a satchel charge, gets the kill traded back, and now the tension is fully released.
Flash Wolves, you win the late game, and yet they force this very strange fight, disconnected twice. Ysera goes in maybe 1v4, throws away his life, followed immediately by Demon, fighting into a bush, 1v4. If they're in a bush, you can't access that team. You're not going to win as an AD carry trade. Even if you have wards in the bush, you can't see the other side. Just an absolute disaster, I would say, for Demon. He really overstays, and now Ysera's going to follow up a mistake with another mistake.
Yeah, he's got no summoners right here. Perfect execution will be only a matter of mere seconds away, but it's not going to be required. The damage threat of the Galio and Olaf in tandem, not enough to scare off the Akali this time around.
Okay, we've talked a lot about Flash Wolves with that team fight. It's now time to talk about Divine, because they're cruising to a mid-game that honestly isn't that bad. Were they versus any other composition, I would say it's their win condition, it's their win state. Because you're coming into an online Galio. You can see he's building Dead Man's Plate, no fear in the world, because there's no AP to speak of against him. I'm going to force this turret. Okay, it's easy. They also have this coming online. The Rabadons is about to be completed for Hope 1 on this Ziggs. He's already got Ludens, so he's going to do a ton of damage at the start of team fights.
Okay, triple Cataclysm, locking a few members in place, really looking to try and prevent them forcing their hand and going for this turret. It's only going to delay the inevitable, and it didn't really do much in the end because all 3 plates are achieved. That is the second turret of the game going in the way here for Divine Esports. Now top and bot are exposed for them to rotate around.
And you also have the crit build complete here for Lucian on Kaiose. So he's about to build, I believe, IE, which will be the completion. That's third item. And once he's got that, once he's got those 3 items, Essence Reaver, Charge Blade, and IE, he's just terrifying in this mid-game. That's going to be about the peak of Lucian damage this game, but it's going to mean that every auto attack he deals is doing about as much as Bruce is doing on his bombs. And for that brief period of time, Divine are going to be able to out-teamfight Flash Wolves. That didn't used to be true, because prior to throwing that teamfight in the mid lane, I would have said that Demon and Bruce were going to be online at about the same time, and they would have matched the plays. But I'm not sure that's true anymore. You can see Rabadon's completed here on Ziggs before third item's complete for Bruce, and that's going to be such a major power swing that you got to be worried if you're Flash Wolves and you're fighting for this next Mountain Drake or skirmishing what have you around this Baron.
Timing is obviously ever so important. Is worth noting that also Eason in a double marksman composition is running the Ardent Sense, so they can look to try and cheat that tempo just a fraction. Nice little item buff to ease the discrepancies between these two. But yeah, rightly as you say, right, the fact that Hope One is as strong as he is so far, if they get a bit of time to focus and poke out these members, I mean, Flash was just straight away zoned.
Yeah, as we come into this team fight,
Uh-oh, indeed.
All right, he's fine.
Not going to be much.
As we come into this team fight, keep your eyes on Bruce and Demon for Flash Wolves. They want to stay alive and just free fire as much as possible. Then Hope One and Coyote, same story over on Divine. There's the 4 players that need to be protected by their respective teams.
Bruce has the package as well, so a lot of damage. Wants to lay down that red carpet for a cinematic circumstances. Been locked in place here, but I thought so far, forced to Bennett very defensively. That's not ideal, but he has to use it anyway. Here's entrance goes on out. Yes, Sarah nullifies Hope One, destroys him from the fight. Coyote finds revenge. The polymorph goes on through, and now Coyote's jumping forward aggressively, life leeching off the blue buff and trading his life for Bruce. Barriers burnt, but both members losing their lives in the end, and the fight breaks out. It's a battle of sustain and a battle of the bruises, and it's Tarnex that picks up a triple.
Demon has the entire map in front of him. It's perfectly winnable. He killer instincts aggressively and just eats a little bit too much damage, goes down, and Flash Wolves lose the team fight at the very last moments as a result. It could have very easily gone their way as Divine lost both their early carries, but it's Len, it's Tarnex, the top side that bring Divine through that team fight. They're going to get the Drake, they're going to get a turret as a result. Let's have another look at this. I want to highlight the brawl that happens up towards the top side of this fight, because it's 2 of the 4 players that highlighted. Coyote flashes onto Bruce, and then he over-chases, thinking he needs to force that kill when Bruce is already out of the fight. And that gives Demon an advantage here. He spends Killer Instinct for the shielding, but he's already dead. Len finishes him off, and he goes down because of a tiny bit of over-aggression. And it's 2 cases of it, but it's ultimately fatal for the Flash Wolves, as Demon just steps too far forward when he could have played safe and won that team fight for them. Now they're behind in this mid game.
And it just feels like the war of attrition, because the juicy targets are those carries, and hence why we saw Akali burst into life and remove the Ziggs at the equation nice and early on. But in the end, it just basically became that battle of the bruisers, because they're tanky, because they're durable. They pump out a lot of damage. I mean, just take a quick stock check of Tarnex's score here. 5-0-1, 4 items in his inventory. That's scary.
I also want to flag here as we go into this mid-game, kind of an absence. Len is playing the Olaf, and so often for Divine, we talk about the early game being the Len show. Divine lost this early game, and we didn't see Len gank a lane once, and those are related. We've seen games where Len is quiet previously during the play-in stage, and those were games that Divine lost. So there are a couple of things on the line here. One, you know, Olaf is a little bit later game of a jungler. Does he just show up here in the late game and it's fine? And if that's the case, that was Divine's plan all along, and they've drafted Masterfully to counter with Flash Wolves abroad. But the other thing that we can, right? The other thing that we can maybe ask is, as a follow-up question, is how do you feel about early games where Len's missing? Can they win those, maybe? Is this proof of that?
Well, my rebuttal to that is we've seen him be so proficient, you know, in the Kha'Zix, the Lee Sin, the Rengar, champions that can definitely get the ball rolling nice and early and put the game state in such a place where he can pass the mantle across to somebody else in this team, say, Hope One, Coyote, it's your time to shine. But as you construct it, it hasn't been for the sort of same effect. Both these junglers have been pretty quiet in regards, mainly just tracking one another and getting a grasp of what the play may be, if it is to be these objectives, or it is to be these forced hands. But 16 minutes into this one, it's still a very small lead to talk about favoring the Divine Esports squad.
Yeah, very small lead. I do want to talk about Flash Wolves hitting their item spikes, though, because they just have Demon and Bruce are going to do so much damage in this next fight.
Yeah.
They absolutely have to be focused down. Oh, very good dodge for Bruce. They absolutely have to be focused down, and Bruce has the rapid fire cannon, so we can fight from range.
Coyote locked in place right now. The Cataclysm does get dodged, but he goes into the Golden State for a second, jumping away. Ysera one-shots him, going away from the flank, but a swing of the axe, and Tarnex is now dominating. But those two assassins, those two marksmen are pumping out damage, and the influence of the Ziggs really isn't given it any time to shine.
It's a very positive trade for Flash Wolves, as for the second team fight in a row, Ysera blows up one of those 4 priority targets, those 4 carries in this game at the very beginning of the fight, and it just cancels all of Divine's aggression. They know they can't play in, because it's essentially, even though it's a 1-for-1 trade, they only have 1 carry, Hope 1, in comparison to Flash Wolves, who still have Bruce and Demon, and those 2 carries mean that they will win a front-to-back team fight. That's the strength of this double AD carry composition that Flash Wolves have brought out here. Team Secret in the PPGL also love to run compositions like this, where you can, it's not too dissimilar from like the Sona Seraphine or Sona Lux we see occasionally, where you can just scale into the late game and say, I don't care what you're doing, as long as you take a 5-on-5, we win. And the way to counter that is to avoid getting into 5-on-5s or smash them during the early game. Divine didn't smash them during the early game, and they're not doing a good job avoiding 5-on-5s, and that makes this very dangerous.
Yeah, they find themselves in this very risky lane state here. Coyote jumps on through, might just get destroyed. He does indeed. Demon then Killer Instincts into the river and looks to switch his attention now onto Tarnex, but Tarnex goes huge. He's got the stone plate, but it doesn't matter because Demon's already found that double kill. Now jumping on through as Ysera guarantees that he'll find that triple kill. The killing spree is there. 3 members have fallen, and now there's an Ocean Elder on the cards.
And that's going to be the game, very likely to Flash Wolves off of exactly the timer we set up. The alarm clock's ringing, Skimmy. Demon hit his leg game, and there's the damage. A triple kill for the Flash Wolves AD carry as they swap out locking, bring in Demon, who had so much success at the Summer Super Cup, and here he is delivering in the group stage of the SEA Championship.
And it all just started in the mid lane at that very particular turret where Bruce is taking a 2v1, posturing ever so aggressively, staunching them out, allowing the rest of the Flash Wolves to find so much pressure at an angle where Tarnex is saying, I'm flanking, I'm fed, but ultimately is getting baited and left to the Wolves. And now, yeah, Flash Wolves find themselves in this situation where they are very comfortable, up by, what, 5k, Elder Ocean, and a Baron, and a checkmate question mark above their heads.
Yeah, if I'm calling it, I would say this is checkmate. You can lay your king down now, although don't surrender, because we had a team get in trouble for that the other day. But you can absolutely start thinking about the next game if you're Divine, because Flash Wolves have looked, I think, the best they have all tournament. Versus you here in this game, the return of Demon to the roster gives them another carry threat, gives them another aggressive damage dealer, allowing, like we saw there in the mid lane, Bruce to step up and take risky fights. And when they go even or bad, you have Demon there as the secondary.
Flash forward, the apprehend, dragging in Bruce, looking to try and get in this to Torment as well. You can't flash, you can't bury it, it just does not matter. Coyote hits the culling and switches his focus onto Cookie, but not before Demon jumps in aggressively there with the Killer Instinct, pumping out damage. The marksman in the late game stage here can literally 1v5. Oh, one more auto. It's going to be enough. It is going to be enough. The Elder buff is too strong, and now Tarnex has to go back to the fan and respond to top and say, what on earth happened to my lane? I was 5-0-1 in lane state, and now Ysera is just smashing us all apart. Finds 2. The cannons, empowered by the Baron buff, are flooding the base. All the inhibitors are down. The Nexus is soon to follow, and Flash Wolves are